What's up, everybody? I am DJ Kazzeo, and welcome to Talkin All That Kazz. Now, what is Talkin All That Kazz? Real quick, breaking it down, before I even get to that, let me tell you this. You want to know anything, you want to connect with me on social media, go to this address right here, www.djkazzeo.com, alright? All my stuff's up there. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all that good stuff is up there, okay? Now, for 27 years, over 27 years, I've been hosting a weekly radio show here at 90.9 FM KHTC in Salinas, California. Every one of the shows I've ever done that's in my library is now online. You can go to this address right here, mixcloud.com/DJ_Kazzeo to hear all the shows, all the music, all the interviews, everything. Okay? Now, speaking of interviews, maybe you don't have the time to go to Mixcloud and listen to the full shows, because there's thousands of hours of stuff to listen to. If that's the case, this is what Talkin All That Kazz is for. I've isolated all the interviews, taken the interview clips, put them in video form, and I'm posting them up here on YouTube for you guys to check out in a shorter time, alright? So you can just go, pick out whatever interview you want to check out, and here it is, okay? So, without further ado, let's see what I got in store for you this time around.
All right, back in the place right here. It is 90.9 FM. As I said, if you didn't hear me before, you hear me now. And speaking of hear me now, got a very special guest joining me on the phone right about now. Man, I've been waiting to have this guy on the show for a long time. This guy is, I mean, no other word other than legend fits this guy. Mr. Carlos Berrios joining me tonight. What's up, man?
How you doing, Kazzeo, man? How you doing? How's everything?
I'm well, man. I'm well. How are you out there, man?
Good, trying to stay safe and practicing, safe etiquette.
All the proper precautions, correct?
There you go. Yep, that's it.
Man, like I said, I've wanted to have you on the show for a long time. I've been a fan for a long time, going back to when, the first thing on my agenda was get home and read the credits on the records and see who did what. And your name popped up a whole lot back in the day, man. So, I know I was trying to do a little bit of research. It was interesting. There was no Wikipedia page for you. There's a Discogs page, but I was surprised there was no Wikipedia.
We gotta get one started.
yeah, I got to make that happen. So, what I did learn from the Discogs page was you were born in Colombia and then relocated to New York, right?
Yeah, it's a little bit more complicated than that. My parents met in New York and were married in New York. But when my mom, just before my mom had me, she had to run to Colombia because my grandmother was ill. And, so even though my mom is from Colombia, my dad's from Peru, it was just happenstance that I happened to be born there. I was supposed to be born in Jamaica Hospital.
Okay. So you were actually, so then you, Jamaica Hospital, so you grew up in Queens?
Yeah, I grew up in Queens. I grew up in Flushing most of my life, which is where the whole After Dark thing started, with my DJ crew. And that's sort of like where I cut my teeth musically.
It's weird on the Discogs page. It said not verbatim, but in a roundabout way, it kind of alluded that the After Dark crew wasn't necessarily a DJ group, was more maybe just kind of like a street crew. With any validity to that?
Not really, no. We were basically friends that got together around the idea of throwing parties, and the two main guys, which was me and the person who taught me, his name is Rick, Ricky D, was part of another DJ crew, but they kind of split up, and then he needed a new partner, so he brought me on. And we came up with the name After Dark, and pretty much anyone that came around us was basically just to be around the parties and that sort of thing. But to be honest, it was the '80s, and young men and partying and that sort of thing. Of course, there was always some kind of scuffle and that sort of thing.
No question, no question.
Yeah. Primarily, we were about the music. Yeah.
Oh, that's what's up right there. So yeah, what was it about? I mean, you said your boy Rick was the one who put you on to DJing. What was it about DJing that like caught your ear and like made you want to pursue that?
I think like most boys, you sort of are automatically attracted to anything that's technical. So even as a child, I was the one that would dismantle my. If I got a birthday gift, if I got a watch, I took it apart. Mm-hmm. If I got a any kind of toy, I took it apart and tried to put it back together. So I think it's that sort of mentality. When I was 13, I think, or 14, I went to a boys' club at a project in Flushing, because there was like 3 or 4 projects, and one of them, the boys' club, was throwing a jam. So I went and I saw for the first time a DJ behind, and he was kind of blocked off, so I had to really peek around to see. But he was spinning the Captain Sky record, which was famous at that time. So he was bringing back the break, and that was the first time I ever saw that. And I said, that's amazing to me, because right away I recognized that he was repeating a phrase, mm-hmm. and I wanted to learn how to do that. So that's sort of where it kicked off. But I was very young when that happened.
No question. And then obviously the progression into working on edits and production. What about the records that were coming out at the time kind of motivated you into saying, like, I could take that and make it a little bit better, and maybe I should like get into the editing and programming? I mean, what was it about that, and how'd that all start?
Well, I think it's just the natural progression of DJing. At a certain point, you realize that maybe you could do more than just overdub 2 records, and so I think that's where the whole 3 turntable, 4 turntable thing started. But honestly, it was when the Latin Rascals first emerged in New York City in the early 80s on KTU. Being a DJ, any DJ that spun records recognized immediately that there was something new going on technically that we really didn't fully understand. But it was simply amazing, and it was like it was like a spaceship landing, on top of your house. It was really bizarre, but it was just great, and everyone wanted to learn how to do that. So I think that sort of set me off on that journey from a technical standpoint.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of good things were happening back then. For some reason, and I can't put my finger on it, but I always thought that possibly, now I can get it from the horse's mouth, so to speak. Was Jelly Bean a big inspiration for you?
He was, along with the Latin Rascals and what he did. Remember it was the early '80s, but it was one day I was at the Funhouse listening to Jelly Bean play. Mm-hmm. It was his heyday. He was in the middle of his prime, and he was playing these 2 records that I knew what they were. But then all of a sudden I heard this other percussion kind of mixing in. And when the beat came in, it was unlike anything I'd ever heard before, and it totally was different from all the other, the music that he was playing. And it was Let the Music Play, basically. He was mixing the dub version to Shannon's Let the Music Play, and it was the first time that I heard it, and I was standing in the middle of the dance floor, just in awe and shock, and I was just like, this is what I want to do. I wanted whatever that feeling is that I just got. I want to be able to do that. I want to feel this way always, and that was kind of like the inspiration.
It's so ironic because the guy who I first gravitated to and like inspired me, like I remember going to it was wild. There used to be this club out here, and you could be like 12 or 13 and get in. And I would go when I was like 12, and I remember seeing him and the way he manipulated the crowd and had everybody like in the palm of his hand. I was like, that's what I got to do. I want to do that too. So, it's ironic, or it's it just shows how universally all DJs are kind of inspired in the same way. Someone, shows them the path, and they gravitate towards that. Right.
Yeah, but it was also the culture. It was everything at the time. there was really a lot going on in New York City. You know, it was, you know, you don't realize it coming out of the 70s and how dangerous it really was. You know, you just sort of accept it for what it is. But it was a wonderful time, you know, for music, for creativity, for art. You know, breakdancing, you know, emerged, graffiti, you know, came into its own.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the whole, I mean, there was just so many different things going on. And I remember going to the Roxy where, you know, that infamous breakdance battle in Beat Street happened.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so you know, I used to go there to listen to Africa Bambaataa and Africa Islam play and Jazzy J, who I ended up working with later. But, you know, what I found amazing was, you know, the crowd was mixed. It was just this really diverse crowd, and people from all over the world used to come to party and listen to music. But it wasn't, you know, one minute they would play Planet Rock, and then the next minute they would play, you know, ABC by the Jackson 5, and that's what real DJing was. And you know, of course, you know, that's changed now, and everything is specifically, you know, genre oriented. But I think that's what was really special and magical about that time, you know, and the DJs that played at that time. And if you listen to Jelly Bean play even today, you know, he still mixes it up. You know, he doesn't just stay with one genre.
Right.
One minute it could be disco, one minute it could be freestyle, one minute it could be, you know, some type of, you know, like Ain't Nobody by Shaka Khan, you know,
Mm-hmm.
which was always a Jelly Bean favorite, you know, and it's amazing that you know, that record works, you know, for Jelly Bean in a club. It did back then, and it does today. You know, when he spins.
Absolutely. It's the beauty of just, you know, starting as a mobile DJ where you have to have, you know, like the business cards usually say music for all occasions. You have to have that.
Right.
You know.
Right. Yeah.
So hey, or go ahead.
No.
I was going to say, I wanted to jump into the first record that had your name on it that I can recall, Karina with Out of Control. Real quick, give me the background on this record before we get into it, and then we'll run it.
That was just my first record, and you know, I cut my teeth learning in the studio, you know, learning how to put things together, ideas, and you know, sequence ideas together and create a song. You know, really not knowing at all what I was doing. You know, so the fact that it came out as good as it did was pretty much a miracle.
It was excellent. I love this record. One of my favorites. Let's jump into it. Karina, Out of Control, produced by my guest right now, Mr. Carlos Berrios. We'll be back in a second right here. Keep it locked. That's right, back in the place right here. You know the deal. Yours truly, Kazzeo, in the building, and still joined by my very special guest, Mr. Carlos Berrios. Now, in that last segment, we were talking about Carlos's rise to dominance from DJing to producing and doing all that stuff. But there was something that he had brought up in that segment. He mentioned going to the Roxy and where they filmed the classic movie Beat Street, and you know, Carlos's like writing partner, one of his writing partners, happens to be someone who actually was in the movie Beat Street and even had the classic line, "It's so clean, we gotta." So talk to me about the connecting with Frank Reyes.
Yeah, Frank Reyes I met in 1987, and by that point he was already a grizzled veteran of traveling the world as a performer, and then of course when he came back, I mean dancing. So he was a choreographer, dancer from a very young age. I'm talking about he went on the road when he was a teenager, and came back, you know, a veteran, and decided to try his hand at acting and landed that role in Beat Street. And then, you know, went back to, you know, choreographing and also, but really managing acts. He discovered Rihanna Page. And when I met him, he was already working with Karina, I think, helping her put together her show. So he's a showman. And when I met him, it was to try to work, you know, he wanted me to work with Rihanna Page, who at the time was unknown, but he eventually got her a deal with Sleeping Bag Records.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until later, you know, that we decided, you know, we might try, you know, to work on something together. and we just started working on a bunch of demos, and it was nonstop until finally, the hard work paid off, and we started, we had a string of back-to-back hits, and it was a wonderful time.
Now, during those times, as you said, Rihanna Page was on Sleeping Bag. You eventually were over on Profile. Karina was on Cutting. Do you miss those days when it was like, or actually not miss, but tell me about those days when there were so many independent labels you could go to and shop, whereas there's like really nothing now?
It definitely was. There was opportunity, for people, for somebody like me, coming up. Cutting signed out of control, even though, but that was a bit of a struggle because even from an early age, even from early on in my career, people didn't really understand my style. Mm-hmm. And, so they used to say, at that time, now, of course, it doesn't, I don't think it really applies, but they used to say that my music was dark and it was darker and, that sort of thing. So there was always those type of comments. Aldo at Cutting didn't like the record. He only signed it when he saw Karina. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it was Karina who sold Aldo on putting the record out. And Profile would Make Noise. That was just a DJ record, that ended up having a Lisette Melendez, first time Lisette Melendez part on it. And so every record was basically a struggle like that. But to answer your question, it was a wonderful time. And you can, if you could do 10 records, you can have 10 different records on 10 different labels. And, and each one, I remember, used to average, could average 50,000 sold. It was just a different time,
Yeah.
If I knew then what I know now, I would have started a record company when I was young.
Right. Yeah, it just seems like if there's more options, there's more inspiration for people. Like if there's not really a lot of options, people that may, have that talent just, say, why even bother? Well,
that's a part of it. Anyone that, chooses to do something is always going to hit obstacles. You're never going to have somebody who says, I want to do this thing, and then all of a sudden goes and is successful at it. You don't succeed at anything unless you fail a bunch of times. So it's those failures that sort of those are your school. That's your school, and you sort of learn. Those are the experiences that you learn from. And so you have to have that sort of personality that doesn't mind, that these doors are slamming in your face. You just go on to the next one and go on to the next one.
Right.
Because it happens to everybody. To me, the most wonderful thing that I became aware of was all these people that I admired, whether it was an actor, a singer, a producer, it didn't matter. They all had the same story, the exact same story. All the doors were slamming in their faces, and they just kept at it,
right.
Because they just had that resiliency. It's like I feel that I have something, and I'm just going to continue.
Yep, that's basically how it sums up right there. So you know what? Let's get into probably my favorite Lisette record, "A Day in My Life." And I have some I have a theory. After we play it, we'll come back and we'll talk about it because I think this was almost not necessarily the song, but the period where it was kind of make or break for freestyle. And I think they kind of, the audiences let it break, in my opinion. So, I'll get more into that in a second. But let's get into it. "A Day in My Life," produced by Mr. Carlos Berrios. This is Lisette Melendez. That's right, back in the place right here. Yours truly, Kazzeo, and, of course, my very special guest, Mr. Carlos Berrios, the super producer of that last record right there, "A Day in My Life" by Lisette Melendez. Now, earlier in the last talk segment, I mentioned that I had a theory about that time period and how it was sort of the make or break time for freestyle, and I felt that the audiences kind of allowed it to break. What I mean by that, and my theory on that is, at that time, 87, 88, you had a lot, like, the production style of hip hop was changing. You were getting away from the drum machines and a lot of samples, loops, breakbeats, etc. And more up tempo stuff was coming out. You had Jinglin' Baby from LL. You had up tempo stuff from Chubb Rock was putting out stuff, and various other artists. And I noticed, like, with the Lizette project, it seemed as though you were implementing that into the production style as well. With freestyle, you were using samples and breakbeats and that type of thing, and was bringing in a whole new style. Now, at that point, it was like a couple other people I heard copied your style, and it was almost like, while a new style was being introduced, people just couldn't let go of the old just straight drum machine with keyboards over it and just that. And like I said, it could have been a progression to a new style, and which would have made more longevity in the genre on as far as mainstream radio went. But they kind of turned their back on it. And is that kind of the way you saw it?
Well, it was really, I think the times were changing for commercial radio. Once the radio stations were being bought out by by the corporations. So in that period, the idea of doing market research to sort of target your audience, so it changed the playing field. And from one moment to another, all of a sudden there was no more dance music on the air.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, that's what happened. But it was leading up to that already. In the late '91, when Together Forever came out, that's the record that basically, said, wait, we're not done yet.
Right.
And gave freestyle kind of like a just a second chance, a second life, basically. But it only lasted for a couple of years, and in those couple of years, there was a lot of imitation, of particularly the idea of the beat and that sort of thing, But I it's weird because my brother reminds me that I come from a hip hop background.
Right.
In my early work, I worked on hip hop records, even as an editor.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know really why I progressed, or whether I moved over to the freestyle side. That was kind of like a natural thing, I guess. You don't really think about it. You just do what you feel, and I guess that's the way that it came out. But I think even for Make Noise, which was one of my very first records, I was playing around with the idea of loops over a drum machine.
Right.
With the James Brown loop and the whole thing, and during that time when I was doing demos, a lot of them had different types of breakbeats and different types of breakdowns, and even with Together Forever, in the breakdown where there's the scratching is going on, Together Forever,
mm-hmm.
that stuff. I brought in King Shamik.
Yeah. I know Shamik very well. He's a good dude.
Yeah, he's a very, very, very good dude, man. And he just came in and he just made magic on my record, man. But so that idea of adding elements that were, of that genre were always there in the back of my head, I guess, and even later on. So A Day in My Life Without You is a perfect combination of trying to combine two different worlds. So the beat is a little bit more hip, a little bit more has a little bit more groove than just a regular drum machine, and the arrangement is what freestyle dance music is all about. But really, it comes down to the song and the production style. Ultimately, the way that the record sounds has a lot to do with, from a production point of view, the sounds that you choose. The sounds that you think are going to work well and blend well together. But yeah, you're absolutely right. The double bridge is something that was an accident, and so the record just seems to climb. It just keeps climbing until it into the chorus, you
Right,
know, and
right.
it's an amazing thing. We've never really done that again. That was something really special. You know, when we heard it for the first time, you know, we knew we had something different.
Lightning in a bottle, as they say.
Yeah.
You know, well, you know, I mean, all the work you've done has led you to be one of the most sought producers now. I see, you know, a lot of people, I'm sure, knocking on your door trying to get you to do stuff for them now. So, you know, I mean, it all leads to the brand new single you just released a couple weeks ago, the record with Sammy Zone. It's called Believe in
Yep.
Love, featuring C-Bank on the chorus. So I kind of notice C-Bank is kind of your in-house background singer.
Well, yeah. I mean, she's more than that. Obviously, you know, we had a big hit with her with "Promise Me Your Heart."
Right.
Except that she was under the name Joey May at the time.
Right. Right.
Because you know, she wasn't sure if she could continue using the C-Bank name, so we decided to create a new name, you know, a new persona for her.
Mm-hmm.
And we did very well with that record. But you know, remember, she also did "He's My Baby," and on my "Don't Look Back" album, we remade "Jelly Beans, Do You Want It Right Now," and you know, a couple of things. But we have 2 new records with her, you know, that we're almost finished with, that we're excited about.
Can't wait to hear them.
It's natural for her to, yeah, you know, yeah, you'd be one of the first, and when, you know, so it's natural for her just to be in the studio with us, you know. So when we have an idea, you know, she's always present and willing to you know, to put in the time and do the magic for us, man. You know, so it's a wonderful thing.
It's like the old Motown, like, you know, everybody was a family and everybody, you know, helped each other out where they're needed. You know, you got the little collective happening.
Absolutely.
You know,
yeah, absolutely.
that's good stuff. So we're gonna get into it. But before I let you go, how can people, you know, follow you on, you know, social media and find out what you're up to?
I'm on Instagram. I'm under Berrios Beats, which is the name of my label now, and on Facebook, just, you know, my name, you'll find me. And I also have a page. You know, you just look for me and you'll find me, and you could keep track of me there. Mostly, what I post on Facebook, I also post on Instagram. So, you know, I know people have different preferences.
Mm-hmm.
You know, obviously the music is available on iTunes. Believe in Love. You just search for it. Carlos Berrios, Sammy Zone, and you're gonna, you know, it'll pop right up. But we do have vinyl on the record. You know, we pressed up vinyl, which
Yes.
is you know, kind of unique to what I'm doing, and a lot of people are definitely copying that. But you know, on the vinyl, I like to offer what they used to offer to us when we were DJing when we were younger, which is, you know, things like acapellas and dub versions, you know,
Mm-hmm.
in the spirit of the way things used to be done back in the day, and even edits, you know, for the people who are really into edits. You know, I did all the edits on a real tape machine, you know, manually by hand with a razor blade.
Ooh,
So-
taking it back.
Yeah. So I'm going to be posting up videos of that soon, because a lot of people have been asking me to post videos of me, like, showing what the process was like, you know, back in the day. So I'm going to do that soon. So if you want to watch that, definitely come and, you know, join my Instagram, and my Facebook.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So yes, the vinyl for the DJs is available. You can, I guess
On eBay.
On eBay. There you go. Just look for
Yeah.
Carlos Berrios's eBay site. I guess eBay shop.
If you just type in Carlos Berrios, it'll pop up. Even if you type in Believe in Love, it'll pop up.
There you go, man. There you go. So, hey, man, we're gonna jump into it. Hold on the line. We'll finish up offline. But I want to thank you for taking the time to call in tonight. I know you don't do too many interviews, so I really appreciate your time in making yourself accessible on this.
Thank you.